My name is Noelle Joyner. It is September 7th, and I'm going to be explaining for Unit 3 the way to translate DNA beyond the genetic code. I'm going over an article that talks about the genomic code, and I'm going to be giving my opinion at the end, but the title is The Genomic Code, a pervasive encoding of chromatin structures and a solution of the non-coding DNA mystery. So in this article, its main focus was talking about the non-coding DNA mystery, and what the author basically came to realize was that non-coding DNA, it was always thought that it was junk with no known purpose, but after looking into it and researching and the development of DNA over the years, they figured out that non-coding DNA, it's becoming clear that at least some of it is important for the function of cells, and particularly gene activity and having control over the gene activity. So throughout this article, Bernardi, the author, basically just explained different details about certain, ways that the gene is affected, and throughout a summary of his conclusions and evidence, he determined that the precise definition of the genomic code solved old problems that were concerning the non-coding DNA, and he concluded that the discovery of DNA, the development that has occurred with finding new mutations and new contributors to DNA change, it created a new vision of the genome. And he basically was saying that the development of DNA has expanded way further than before, and we have figured out that there is no unnecessary part. All the parts of the DNA is very essential to functioning. Otherwise, if the parts weren't there, there would be errors, there would be mutations, there would be disorders. There's lots of things that can happen when certain structures aren't built correctly. And then he also goes over chromatin structure, which he refers to chromatin as a mixture of DNA and proteins that form chromosomes found in the cells of humans and other higher organisms. And it was interesting to see. In my opinion, I thought the article was pretty helpful because it clarified the non-coding DNA. I had not much background knowledge on what the non-coding DNA's purpose was, so it clarified to me that it isn't just junk, and it is essential to gene activity and continuing cell function overall. And it also explained how in chromatin, the nucleosome, it explains how it's very important because it's the complex of the base pairs of DNA, and it's how its structure is formed is it's wound in two turns around the outside of the disc-like complex of eight histones. And he basically highlights how important these structures are and contribute to functioning for coding and DNA and RNA structures development. So overall, I thought it was pretty interesting to see, because there was a lot of parts of this article that I didn't really have a full understanding of, but after looking into it a couple times, some terms I would look up, I wasn't really sure about how they focused on how there's GC rich or gene rich isochores, how those are significant and contribute to TADs, which I wasn't familiar with, but after reading this, I was enlightened with how they contribute to non-coding DNA and how it's not really junk DNA as they were referring to it before. And scientists have just developed a lot of revelations and new things about DNA as time goes on. So this was a very interesting article.